It's 33 weeks until the 2016 NFL season, and this is Real in the Field Gulls. I am your host, Kenneth Arthur, and with me is your host, Danny Kelly. Danny, the season is over, but the offseason begins for the Seattle Seahawks, and it's a new season. We're coming up on 1 year anniversary of Real in the Field Gulls. It's going to be a new season of Real in the Field Gulls, you could say. And with that being said, with new beginnings come new things. And this week's new thing are those highly advertised. We swear we're gonna use money on new microphones. So that's what we have this week. It's new, very professional microphones. Danny, how do I sound?
You sound wonderful. And how do I sound?
Not that good, but I don't think it's the microphone's fault.
Rude, but okay. Yeah.
The microphone is picking up every nook and cranny of your voice, and I'm just drinking it all in. So
smooth. Drink it down, Kenny.
Hey, so 196.
That got weird. Sorry, that got weird. How do I sound, Kenny?
You sound really good. You know, I think
better
this is going to be an opportunity for people to really hear our voices, and that's going to either take us to the next level or end our careers.
One or the other, yes.
But you know, for the most part, I think as long as we sound professional, people might actually be tricked into believing that we are professional. So we want to, make sure that that we did get these excellent microphones and we're using them to upgrade the Real in the Field Gulls podcast. We have a couple people to thank for that. We want to thank our sponsor for the playoffs, that being Great Leap Studios. If you've been listening to the show for the last couple of weeks, you've heard Great Leap Studios. Maybe you have not checked them out yet, and I highly encourage you to do so at greatleapstudios.com. A Seahawks fan, a Field Gulls fan steps forward and says, I love the show. I want to help the show. And maybe if you say my business's name on the air, then it's a great partnership. And I just want to be able to help you guys no matter what. So we like that. And if you like us, we want you to, if you have the need or think you might have the need for something like high quality content writing, search engine optimization, blogging, website design, or other online marketing services, please go to greatleapstudios.com, or you can call them at 347-460-5492. And, you guys can talk about field goals, and that'll be another thing that you can share with Great Leap Studios. And, we think that we're still having to get them to do some, we're like, hey, give us some of your free, give us some of that free biz and upgrade our search engine optimization, and it's going to work out, because I know that it's going to. But it's not just that we got the microphones. We want to thank all the excellent people that have donated through Patreon. And we set up that Patreon account, and a lot of people have come through to help. And, we're just going to keep on making the show even better. Danny, do you want to say anything to our Patreon people?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, just thank you for the support. That's really huge for us. We got plans to upgrade, a number of ways that we will ramp up and do eventually. And we got, obviously, this helps us pay for the hosting of the show. So you can always have the host. You can always have the old shows available if you want to go back and listen. And then, the microphones, and we're still planning on a few more upgrades to make the audio sound a lot better. So overall, we're really excited about it, and we really appreciate it. So thank you.
Yeah, it's just going to keep getting better. And some of those Patreon donors, we said that if you donated $5 or more, you get a shout out. There's too many names to do all in one episode, and we just want to make sure. And you don't want to flood it all up so that you don't get it. But, I just want to go back and say thank you to Jason Dick. Danny, I think Jason, he wants a personal thank you from you as well. So why don't you say it?
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Jason Dick.
And Number of the Beast, you decided to go the route of not giving your actual name. That could be anybody. That's the Number of the Beast. Do you think the Number of the Beast is 666 or 24?
Maybe 12, 12, 12? I don't know.
That sounds like that is a movie by Wes Craven, I believe. Not a very good one. And we want to thank Joel Ellie. How would you say Ellie if it was EHLY?
Yeah, I think that's right. That sounds right.
Ellie. Joel Ellie. Or sometimes it's Joel.
It could be Joel. Yes.
That's a tough one. And finally this week, just a thank you to Spencer Vale, who pledged $10. And I know I see Spencer all the time on Twitter, I
On
think.
the Twitters, I do too. Yep.
Yeah, so he's very active on Twitter. And Spencer, just a big shout out and a thank you. And I swear, if there's ever a Twitter handle involved with any of these pledges, I don't have a problem with saying that either. Spencer Vale is an easy one, at Spencer Vale. And there you go. Thank you, Spencer, for donating $10 through Patreon, and we'll have that link in the post if you guys happen to see it. And I know you guys don't want to hear that. If you didn't donate, or if you did, you don't want to hear all this stuff. It's 5 minutes of thank yous and lead up, but the whole time it's coming through these excellent microphones, right? So that's something.
Yeah, I mean, we sound amazing, so that's the important thing.
We do. And we are amazing, and the content is out of this world. Starting with
This world.
The 2016 Seattle Seahawks. What kind of topics are we tackling this week? We don't have a guest this week. We didn't have a guest this week, but we're going to be ramping up for some great guests in the coming weeks. And then you'll be able to hear those guys give their opinions on this. But it's just me and Danny this week, and I hear a lot of people talking about Jermaine Kearse and whether or not Jermaine Kearse is going to stick around. I think that the logical thing to say up until this point was, I mean, for me personally, Jermaine Kearse is going to go out on the market and he's going to find out what he can get. And I think that he can get more from another team because he's still not going to be higher than, I think, the third or fourth, not even the third option. I don't think he's going to be higher than the fourth or fifth option on this team week to week. And I think he's probably worth trying to go out there and get something better than that. He's a great blocking wide receiver. He's a very clutch wide receiver, but he's not the most consistent wide receiver in terms of, can you throw this guy 90, or he's not going to get 100 targets in Seattle. So could he get 100 somewhere else? And then today, Jermaine, he made it clear, I love Seattle, but there is no hometown discounts. I'm a person that has to take care of my family. Danny, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's again, we've talked about this over many times in the past. Like, guys aren't going to take hometown discount, and we talked about it actually in the quick reaction show the other day. He might take a slight discount in terms of a situational discount, because he thinks it's better long term, but he's not going to take a discount because he's from Seattle. Like, just stop thinking that. Like, it doesn't make any sense. He's going to take what makes sense for him financially, career wise, and go from there. So, no surprise, like you tweeted earlier, it's kind of good that he came out and was just honest about it right away. Like, we don't have to pretend that he's going to take a big discount and take way less money because he likes the Northwest. Like, he's going to do what's best for his career, and we can't blame him for that. I actually would do the exact same thing. So, it's funny because I don't think he's going to get a lot on the open market. So I do think he might actually end up with the Seahawks. It'll be interesting to see what happens, and there's gonna be a lot of things that have to fall into place for that to happen. Depends a lot on what the other free agents do. But what were you gonna say?
Where do you start with Jermaine Kearse? Because there is if you're negotiating with Kearse, do you start on the number of years? Do you start on the guarantee? Do you start on the annual value? Like, when you're looking at a player like Jermaine Kearse, and you could say, look, what if we give you 3 pretty much guaranteed years, but it's not a lot per year? Or would you rather say, look, I'll give you this nice, but you can it's not really guaranteed past 2 years, but it is a nice amount of money.
Yeah, that's probably, I would say it's going to get a 2 or 3 year deal. I would say probably 2 years. I wanted to read off some of the receivers that ended up getting deals last year, so you can kind of get an idea. And every year is different, of course.
What?
Every year is different.
What are you trying to tell me? Are you telling me that 2016 is not the same as 2015?
I am going to tell you that. And actually, the receiver group this year is actually pretty underwhelming in free agency, which might be good for Kearse. I'm not really sure exactly how it will play out. And I think, honestly, like I said, it's different each year because there's different demand for different players, and sometimes the receiver market will be depressed, or sometimes people will be desperate. I personally don't think he's going to get a huge offer because I think mid-level veteran receivers kind of like him are kind of a dime a dozen, honestly. And let's take a look. So last year, Dez Bryant was a free agent. He got franchise tagged. Demaryius Thomas got franchise tagged. Randall Cobb re-signed with the Packers for 4 years, $40 million. Jeremy Maclin signed with KC, 5 years, $55 million. And Torrey Smith signed a 5-year, $40 million deal with San Francisco. Andre Johnson, 3-year, $21 million deal with Indianapolis. This is obviously not like the details of the deal. A lot of this is probably not like guaranteed or whatever.
Yeah.
Percy Harvin signed a 1-year, $6 million deal with Buffalo. And then you get into kind of more curses area, I think now, like in terms of like the type of receiver he is. So Stevie Johnson signed a 3-year, $10.5 million deal with San Diego. I think that's kind of more where you're going to be seeing for Curse, the Stevie Johnson style deal. Dwayne Bowe, who I think only played like 20 snaps this year, signed a 2-year, $12.5 million deal with Cleveland.
Awful.
Kenny Britt signed a 2-year, $9.15 million deal. That might be kind of close to what you get with Curse. So I think it's going to be like somewhere between 3 and 4.
That's fair. And, like as far as the market goes, there were a number of guys. I went to every team and sort of looked at some of the higher profile named guys that I thought might be making too much money that the teams might be letting go of. And, I think the market, and you're looking at some of those veterans too, in the sense of an Andre Johnson or Dwayne Bowe, when I think you might see Roddy White, Vincent Jackson, Pierre Garcon, Mike Wallace, Marcus Colston, Victor Cruz, and a few other guys. And if you look at that whole thing, like, I don't know, what would you rather have? Would you rather have Vincent Jackson, who is inconsistent but capable maybe of some of the big plays, or Victor Cruz, or would you rather have Jermaine Kearse, who has been completely healthy in his career, but he is what he is. I don't think that I think Stevie Johnson is a great example, but even then, after Stevie Johnson put up like 4,000 yard seasons in Buffalo,
right?
Like there was more.
Kearse hasn't ever even gotten close to that. So right. I mean, maybe he's more like Brian Hartline or Cecil Shorts. Both of those guys signed 2-year, $6 million deals. Maybe even Eddie Royal. He got 3 years and $15 million from Chicago, and then didn't really do anything this year. So it kind of, obviously just kind of depends. Like,
so is that a gimme for you? Is that a no-brainer that if Jermaine Kearse will sign a 2-year, $6 million deal, would that be something that you'd give him?
I mean, yeah, I think that would be something I'd be definitely interested in doing. Again, like I said, it kind of depends on what else happens. There's a lot of dominoes effect here, with whether they want to get Okung done, if they get him done, if they get Jeremy Lane done, and then there's not much money left over. That would change things,
it wasn't a good day for Nate Burleson when he had a dominoes effect. Now, for those of you that don't know, Nate Burleson broke his arm while going for some pizza. So
in the car, yeah, okay. So didn't he get in a car accident when he was trying to?
Yeah, he's like reaching for
some falling off the seat or something like that.
Dominoes effect, everybody.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that Kearse is a good receiver for the Seahawks, and he's like a good number 3 guy. I think behind Baldwin and Lockett, but I don't think he's the kind of guy that teams are gonna really go hard at, because I don't know. Like I don't know. That's just kind of my gut. I just don't see that. But it only takes one. It only takes one team that wants him a lot. It could be like Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see I think they're definitely going to, I think it's going to be the type of situation where he hits free agency, he's going to find out what's out there. Maybe a month will pass, 6 weeks. You hear that he's met with this team or that team. Maybe he has 2 or 3 interested suitors, and then, he signs with someone, and I think it's probably a reasonable deal for a guy like that. I mean, I wrote an article last year when they tendered him the $2.5 million or whatever it was, saying that was not a smart move or whatever, at least in my opinion. And, a lot of people were even then saying, well, he probably won't make that much. He did. I mean, they were wrong, but
they paid him 2.5 this year.
Right. Whatever the tender was, but the $2+ million tender that he had signed. So, I mean, the next one, if it's $3 million, I think that if you look at, definitely in this latter half of the season when Russell Wilson was on fire, Jermaine Kearse was a huge part of that. He caught 4 touchdowns over like 6 games. And, I think his full season pace over that time was something close to 1,000 yards. And that's great and all. And I think that when you talk about the Pete Carroll's comments about putting Russell Wilson through the master class or whatever, that this whole offseason is dedicated to making Russell Wilson an elite quarterback and putting him up into that tier and making him do everything that he believes now through 4 years. It's like he's graduated Pete Carroll's college of quarterbacking, and now it's going to be, now he's going to his master's program. Jermaine Kearse, whether he's a part of that or not, like in the offseason, as far as free agent moves, as far as the two starting offensive linemen that are going to be free agents, as far as, bringing in perhaps a new center, as far as Jimmy Graham's injury and the draft, what do you think is the highest priority for the Seattle if they're going to build an offense that continues to get better around Russell Wilson?
Well, I mean, I think that the Russell Okung thing will be very interesting to see what happens because, I think John Clayton said he's going to get somewhere like 8 or 9 $1 million a year. And so that's obviously a big ticket kind of guy. And if they value him that highly and want the continuity on the offensive line, that's a big deal. And I mean, Pete Carroll talked about it in the closing presser, like they want to address the offensive line and not have the extremely slow start that they had last year or this year. Have all the issues on the offensive line. Having kind of an anchor on the left tackle position is an important thing. So I think it kind of starts with Okung and then goes from there. If they decide that he's going to be too expensive, that kind of changes the priority. Everyone's bumped down a little bit. I think maybe Jeremy Lane might be next on that because having a lot of depth at cornerback, I think is really a big deal. And we saw that happen with, Kerry Williams this year. And it was really a detrimental effect on the entire defense when you don't have a guy that you can trust out there. So I think for me, it starts with Okung, goes to Lane. And then from there, you can make the argument for Kearse or a number of guys, Bruce Irvin potentially. And so I think for me, those two top guys, it really just depends what happens with them. And then from there, you have to decide how many other ones you can keep.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens. And I mean, I think that one thing that I was surprised about when I was writing my article today was just went up for the Seahawks draft history and going just over their draft history and want to know what they did because I think it'll give us clues into what we can expect in this upcoming draft. Obviously, once again, the first round draft pick, 26th overall, is on the table, I'm sure, for some sort of trade out there, and we'll probably hear more about possible names. I mean, I don't even know. There was not ever a hint that Jimmy Graham was even on the market, let alone coming to Seattle until it actually happened, right?
Right. Yeah, we didn't really hear anything until right when it happened.
Right. So anything is possible. I mean, they've done it. They've done 2 huge splashes in the last 3 years, and maybe they could do that again. But I was kind of surprised when you look at the Jermaine Kearse that once again, I still think that wide receiver will be the priority with that first or even second round draft pick. When you look at it and you say, okay, we've got now perhaps a potential superstar in Tyler Lockett. You've got Doug Baldwin, who has really come on and not let up. I mean, even against, throughout the playoffs, he was still highly targeted, still a very important piece of the offense. So you've got Baldwin and Lockett. But Jimmy Graham's probably not going to be ready by the start of the season. He'll probably start up on the PUP list and come in at the second half of the season, if ever. And after that, if you don't have Jermaine Kearse as well, then you're talking about Paul Richardson, Kevin Smith, Kason Williams. I know if you look at this draft now, I've learned a lot through 3,000 NFL mock draft. You could have a guy like a Michael Thomas from Ohio State or Will Fuller from Notre Dame. I don't know how Braxton Miller from Ohio State. I don't know what his draft status is going to be, or is like as far as where he could be seen as going. Corey Coleman from Baylor is a guy that has been, sometimes seen as a top 10 pick. Sometimes, I think those same guys like a Brashad Perriman could fall into the 20s. How would you feel about a first round draft pick being spent on a wide receiver, even though it seems like that is they seem to keep hitting that same note? Would you be okay with that?
I mean, it kind of just depends on the guy, but yeah, I think I would be fine with it. I think a lot of people would be disappointed if it wasn't an offensive lineman, and I don't blame them. I wouldn't blame them for that. I think right now we've seen what Russell Wilson can do with protection, and so it's so important to get him protected. And obviously investing in the offensive line is going to be a big deal this offseason. Where they go and get guys like it, whether it's free agency or the draft, we don't really know yet, but. I would say it wouldn't be on the top of my priority list, but we've seen kind of the impact that Tyler Lockett can have and Doug Baldwin can have. So getting a really talented guy at receiver, I don't think I would be disappointed about that necessarily, but it wouldn't be my first choice, I'll put it that way, because they tend to take a little bit of time to develop, a couple of years. And I think, with Lockett and it depends on what they do with Kearse, but I think they do kind of have a good setup at receiver going forward, and you can find guys in the third and second round that could contribute. So I think I wouldn't be like really pissed off or anything like that if they went and got like a first round pick that looked like he could contribute in the first round or contribute in the first year as a receiver. But I think it wouldn't be my first choice. I'd rather have them go defense or offensive line.
Well, yeah, you could. I mean, you talked about it earlier. You said that. I mean, not just receivers like Cursor, a dime a dozen. It seems like almost every receiver outside of the top 10 is a dime a dozen. I mean, if you look at the 100th best receiver in the NFL, I guarantee you might say, "Oh, that guy's actually pretty good."
Right.
You know, and look at how many receivers have come into the draft in the last 3 years, and you're talking about some guys haven't even played yet, like a Kevin White or a Perryman. I mean, and those guys are probably still going to be top prospects going into next season.
How many players do you think had 1,000 yards receiving this year?
If probably 22, 21 or 22.
26 players had 1,000 yards.
That's probably a record. I mean,
yeah, I'm sure it is.
I know that. And how many rushed for 1,000? 5, 6. It's
it's probably very. Let me check. Let's see here.
There's definitely been a shift towards. I mean, obviously we know about the shift to passing, but it's like
7
running backs. I mean, there used to be the opposite. That was It was very, and now it's like, but these guys are coming in so often. Really, the value, and I think that is interesting, is that it would still come in defensive backs. That's where the value is coming in. If you can find a cornerback that can defend these guys,
right?
Because there is only a finite amount of athletic talent in the world, and it's birthed and it's molded and it comes up through the ranks, and that talent is going to pick a side. And a lot of these guys, they want yards and touchdowns, so a lot of the athleticism is going to the offensive side of the ball. It's the same thing with the big guys, and they want sacks, so they're going to the defensive side of the ball. That's why it's harder to find offensive linemen that are as good as the defensive linemen. And that's why Pete Carroll and John Schneider draft so many defensive linemen to play offensive line. That's basically how it goes. And there will be shifts. Yeah, and there will be shifts. So, but it's interesting too about the defensive backs is how many Pete Carroll. I don't think you've had a chance to read my article yet. So, how many? They've drafted 56 guys since 2010.
Okay.
How many defensive backs do you think they've taken above the 5th round?
0.
Well, they took Earl Thomas.
Oh yeah, Earl. How could I forget about Earl?
But it was a long time ago.
2010.
And also a long time ago, they took Walter Thurman in the 4th round.
Walter. Okay. So it was 2? Then it's only 2.
Just the 2, and only one of them was above the 4th round.
Wow.
And they still built the best secondary in the NFL for many years. And and I think you look at it now and you can say next year they've got Ty Smith and Thorold Simon. Maybe we can see something out of, the Deshaun Shedd's going to come back probably. I don't see why he wouldn't. Jeremy Lane, you said, as a free agent. Marcus Burley, Stanley John Baptiste, who knows if he's compared to Richard Sherman. So I think that it's not out of the realm of possibility to think that he can make the team and perhaps develop.
Right. They like George Farmer a lot. I like the idea of Mohamed Cisse. There's a lot of guys in there that could kind of develop that.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting.
So do you think that it would, at the same token though, it seems to me like it would be a stretch to ever see that. A lot of people are going to be saying, don't have that same Kerry Williams dilemma.
Right.
You're not drafting any corners high. Take a corner in the 1st round if one's there. I know that Rob Staten likes Eli Apple out of Ohio State as a guy that he sees as perhaps a top 10 or 15 prospect that other people are maybe saying is not going to go that high. Would you have to really be convinced of a player's ability that he slipped in order to see it be a cornerback over an offensive lineman?
No, I would not be disappointed if they took a corner in the 1st round. I think cornerbacks are so valuable. You can say the same about a pass rusher. I think if they decide to go corner or pass rusher, even if they have depth at both spots, I just love those are 2 position groups that you can't have enough of. So I think if they see a guy that they really like in the 1st round at corner and he kind of falls down to 26 or wherever they're picking and they like him a lot, I'd say go for it. I mean, I don't see any problem with it. I think even though they haven't done it in the past, I think that doesn't necessarily mean that they didn't have their eyes on guys. I think we heard that they liked Bradley Roby in the first round a couple of years ago, last year or the year before, I can't remember. And then the Broncos picked him just before the Seahawks. And so, I don't think it necessarily means they'll never pick a guy that early. I just think it means they've managed to find these gems, and so they've gone in other places. But they've only had how many first round picks have they even had? 4 in the Pete Carroll era?
Yep. 2 of them offensive linemen, 1 defensive back, and 1 linebacker / defensive end.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a pretty small sample size in terms of what they like to do in the early rounds, and so it's to me, if you're picking one of those premium positions, that's not going to bother me. I think that's a good route to go.
Speaking of linebackers, Bruce Irvin, he's set to be a free agent, and we'll see what he could get. It seems like it might be $5-6 million, something like that per year, but it could be more, it could be less. It's really hard to get a feel for what Bruce Irvin is to other teams,
right?
Let alone what he is to the Seahawks. So, but at the same token, one of the other surprises I found when I was looking at the draft history, this team fucking nails it with linebackers.
Yeah,
they've only drafted 6, maybe 7, and that includes Bobby Wagner, Bruce Irvin, and KJ Wright. Mm-hmm. It also includes Malcolm Smith, who just had a phenomenal season for the Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I thought oh yeah, he's doing good. No, he had well over 100 tackles, 4 sacks,
really?
An interception, 6 passes defensed, and 3 forced fumbles.
Wow.
He was all over the field. He seemed to be one of their best defensive players. And you've got Kevin Pierre-Louis, who was a good special teamer. He was out there every week.
Yep.
And he's, just to make the team is good. Really, the only whiff they've had is Corey Toomer. So
right.
It's
right.
And Eric Pinkins, if you consider him a linebacker.
Well, they drafted him, I think, as a safety or a corner, and then we'll see what happens. And then there was Mike Morgan. Oh, wait, he was an undrafted guy.
Right.
So that doesn't count. But yeah. I mean, I think
just as linebackers go. So if they let Bruce Irvin go, they could still be looking at maybe a second round linebacker, and maybe that's something to look forward to.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, they could go in a lot of different directions, of course. So it's
one thing that's interesting as well is I don't know what Michael Bennett's head's going to be at. He's actually, his cap hit is higher than Cliff Avrill's, but he's making $2 million less in base salary. Do you think that that's something that could get into his head?
I mean, I think that, I mean, he was obviously upset about it before this year. And then, I'm sure he's still probably thinking about it. It'll be interesting to see if the Seahawks potentially decide to give him a raise or some sort of something or other to make him happy this offseason, because he was one of the best players on their defense, if not the best player on their defense all year. And, he's an integral guy on their defensive line, so they want to keep him happy. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that, if they try and kind of throw him a bone and hope to make him at least placate him. If they're not going to give him an extension, at least placate him now until they do give him an extension. So I think it would be smart to do that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys that are not entering their final year of their deal that you would ask if they deserve an extension, or they might ask if they deserve an extension, including Cam Chancellor. I mean, there's definitely guys that probably would be like to get a raise right now, but that would go against their precedent, what they don't want to set an example for, right?
Yeah, and I think I can't remember if they start talking about it the year before their contract year, or they don't start talking about it until they're in their contract year. Do you remember what it is, what their rule is?
As far as I knew, it was just that, if you have more than 1 year left on your deal, that's your deal. There's no...
Right. So I think... a guy like Doug Baldwin, his contract year is next season. So I think they'll start talking about, extending him already. I think this summer they'll start talking to him about an extension. With Mike Bennett, I'm not sure what the cutoff is in time, because his contract's not up till 2017. But I think they could maybe during the season or early on in the preseason start talking about, we're going to take care of you and give you an extension or something like that. So I don't know what their actual cutoff is. I know that 2 years ahead of time, like what it was with Cam, I think that's the kind of precedent they're looking to avoid. So I could still see them doing something for Bennett. based on
Yeah,
kind of
Doug Baldwin
that.
seems like a guy that is definitely hit at the right time.
Oh yeah.
Going to be good for him probably. To say like, look at right now what I've done right now. I wonder, what do you think that because we've had to consider Jermaine Kearse, and we've sort of looked at what Jermaine Kearse would be like on the open market. What if Doug Baldwin couldn't
What was
speak for
that?
a second? I think I was trying to think of like a thing to call him.
Yeah.
Just like Dougie fresh market, like a market fresh.
Thought you were maybe having a stroke or something.
Yeah, I'm having a stroke. But Doug Market Fresh. If Doug Baldwin went on this market right now, coming off of the season that he just had with 14 touchdowns, 1,000 yards, an amazing catch, that he's shown off his abilities. And you've already said that the market is sort of weak for wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think how big do you think his contract would be? Are you looking maybe at a Randall Cobb 4-year 40?
Yeah, I would think it would be 9 to 11. That would kind of be the range I would start in. I think I'm looking at Randall Cobb. He did a 4-year 40. Jeremy Maclin did a 5-year 55. So I would say he's similar in style to those guys. And I think he would get paid. I think people would look at his catch rate, his ability to get open, his production in a lower volume offense. And I think that they would think, oh, this guy would fit really well in our offense. And he's young. He's been really healthy. So I think he would probably get paid pretty well. I think they probably look at his touchdown number and be like, okay, that's probably an outlier. You're not going to be paying for a guy to get 14 touchdowns a year, because I don't think he's kind of that kind of guy. But I think they would look at him as a guy who could catch 100 passes and do 1,200 yards or something in a higher volume passing offense for sure. I think that's the kind of player he is. In his touchdown would probably be more like 7 to 8 touchdowns, but that's still, good. So I think that would be where you want to start, 10 to 11.
I mean, that makes you a little bit apprehensive, doesn't it? Knowing that you've got, 3.5 years of previous Baldwin and then half a year of this Baldwin. I mean, how apprehensive are you that this is going to be repeatable next season? Do you believe in Doug?
I do, and I think it just goes to, I mean, a lot of it is the quarterback play, honestly. Like Russell Wilson turned a corner in the second half of the year and really, really started playing well. Playing like, we'd seen sort of glimpses of it here and there, but he started playing like that consistently over 7-8 games. So I think that had a lot to do with it. I don't think, and Doug will say this, I don't think he changed a whole lot. I don't think he did like get a lot better this year. I think he just, started getting, there was the passing game was more fluid in rhythm, and they were passing the ball a lot more. Actually, they passed it a lot more this year than they have in the past previous years. So I would say, I don't think that Baldwin was a fluke this year. I think he's always been a really strong, good player, really good hands, and could always get open. I think it was just a matter of finally getting on the same page with the quarterback, and the offense finally started to be more pass heavy and focused on that. So I think that was kind of the reason for the offensive explosion more than he all of a sudden became better. I mean, I think he did improve. I think players do improve year to year, but I think I don't think he was like all of a sudden like he's fucking amazing. Like it's like finally all kind of the different variables came together, and he had a really great year.
So now that we've had this past season like completed, and we know what went right and what went wrong, and we know what we want to see next year, I know that I'm really excited to see where the offense goes with Thomas Rawls. I mean, I've been saying since I think 1996 or 97 that Thomas Rawls is my favorite player.
Yeah.
And, I know that he was the MVP last year. So, I mean, everybody knows that.
Are we saying last year as in 2015?
In 2015, everybody knows that Thomas Rawls was the MVP. Like, he's going to get all the votes.
Okay.
Just going to, I mean, that's a given. Name one other player that might win MVP.
I can't think of a single one.
Rawls had 830 yards and he only had 7 starts. So I don't care the total number of games. It's going to say 7, 830. He's on pace for 4,000 yards. And I mean, he's clearly a dynamic player.
Jeez, that's crazy.
And so he was the MVP, and I'm really excited to see where he's going to go next year. I feel we talked to Rob on the 3000 NFL mock draft podcast about this, and he said he pretty much had the same injury as Thomas Rawls, that he broke his ankle like in the same places. And that, it's just something where he wouldn't be surprised if Thomas Rawls was already out of a cast by now, walking around.
Right. So he's not worried about long-term.
No, he says there shouldn't be a change in his explosion. There shouldn't be any changes in his abilities.
That's good.
So I think that we're going to be okay. I feel assured at least. So knowing that, so we've got Thomas Rawls. I'm very excited to see where the offense goes. Jimmy Graham is the biggest concern. I mean, a lot of people are asking. I think, this is the tough thing about being NFL fans is the fickleness sometimes, is that how excited were we a year ago to get Jimmy Graham, and now people are like, well, fuck that guy. Get hurt on a football field, you asshole. Screw you, man.
Yeah.
And they know that he's $9 million with none guaranteed. And it's like, I'm sorry, you don't spend a first-round draft pick. I mean, I know the Seahawks just spent a first-rounder on Percy Harvin, and it lasted for less than a year and a half. I don't think you're going to go out and do another one on Jimmy Graham, and it lasts less than a year.
You can't. I mean, you can't keep doing that. You have to get more than 1 year of production out of a first-round pick.
Not only that,
it's just too much draft capital to give up. I'm sorry.
We're really not going to know. We're really not going to know if Jimmy Graham is going to be able to recover or not until I think, at least by the end of next season. So you let him go, and then he goes and signs with some other team, and he goes out and he kills it. You had no reason to do that. I don't think that they're so cash strapped that they need to allocate the $9 million somewhere else. And if it doesn't work out, his next year isn't guaranteed either. It's fine. Yeah. So
it would piss me off if they released him.
Yeah, it would be upsetting.
I don't think it's going to happen.
Right.
But if it did, I would be angry. I'll put it that way. I think it would be a really dumb move.
Yeah. And I hope other people around that are listening to this, they would get angry as well. And if you're not going to get angry,
there's a lot of people that want to cut him. Or
there's a lot of people that seem to, I think that there's certain things in the sports that get super overvalued by fans.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the main things in the last 10 years has been contracts and how much money a team is spending. And it's like in baseball when someone's like, well, I don't want to give that guy $50 million. And, they don't have a salary cap.
That's not your money.
I don't want to give him $50 million. You're not, actually. You're not giving him anything.
Right?
Don't fucking worry about it. But I understand that in the case of football, when you see $9 million, I mean, that's something like, that's like 7.5% of your salary cap or something like that. I could see where you're like, well, what if that money did go to someone who we knew was going to be healthy? Shouldn't we just sort of cut bait? And it's like, you do realize that from 2010 to 2014 or 2011 to 2014, Jimmy Graham was one of the top 5 offensive skill players in the NFL, maybe. Yeah. Let's maybe give him another year, even when he was in.
Did you see what Greg Olsen did this year?
Yeah.
I mean, God damn it. Like, just give him a little more time. The thing about, like, everyone's like, oh, he wasn't a fit in the offense, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, it wasn't like Jimmy Graham was the problem. I think there's more than one variable, you guys.
If you watched, I rewatched, I think it was the Pittsburgh game that he hurt himself in. But in that same game, he made a catch that was unreal.
A ridiculous catch.
The announcers said incomplete, that they were so sure that it was incomplete that he had to get up with the ball and see the ref actually say that it was complete for them to say, oh my God, he caught that.
Well, I think that Greg Olsen is a good example of this. Like the Bears traded him for a 3rd-round pick, and now he went out. He's probably the second best receiver, or he's second best tight end in the NFL this year behind Gronk. Yeah. And it's not like he's a good blocker.
Yeah.
He's on the fucking Panthers, who are a run-heavy team.
Yeah.
And did he ruin their offense? No, he made a miraculous fucking awesome catch in the playoffs, scored a touchdown for him. Like, that's what Jimmy Graham's going to bring. Just give him some time. Like, stop it. God, he was only what, like, I don't know, 8 games or whatever.
He had 11 games, and it was
11 games.
The offenses are so complicated and nuanced that you can't always just jump from one to the next and expect everything to be the same. But I think that you could even see towards the end of the year Russell Wilson developing into a Drew Brees type of quarterback.
Yeah, and it's not like they
see that.
People like think the like causation of the Seahawks offense of being really good was that Jimmy Graham got injured. It's like, stop it. Stop saying that. That's not what happened. The offensive line actually started giving Russell Wilson a pocket to throw from, and he managed to improve a lot of areas. It wasn't because Jimmy Graham got hurt that the offense got good all of a sudden. It was just a coincidence of that time. I think if Jimmy had been healthy all year, he probably would have seen some of the crazy offensive explosion that Doug Baldwin would have in the second half of the year. I think he probably would have had like 6 or 7 touchdowns.
Let's even look at it from perspective of, let's say Jimmy Graham wasn't on the Seahawks last year and that the Russell Wilson still had the same season and still had that explosion at the end of the year. Now let's say this. Let's say that Jimmy Graham still had the same patellar tendon injury last season. Mm-hmm. And then let's say, like, what if the Seahawks went out and added him this year, not having him last year, but they added him this year? The perspective from fans, I believe, would be, he's going to get healthy. He's going to get good. He's going to be healthy, and he's going to come right back, and he's going to crush it. I can't believe we just got him just because he hurt his knee, and he's going to come back, and now he's going to be on the Seahawks. They would be excited to have Jimmy Graham added into this offense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, people that say he didn't fit into the offense, I don't think they were like paying attention during the 3 or 4 games prior to him getting hurt. He became a very, very important part of their offense. He was making first downs. They were lining him up and using him as an ISO option on the left side or whatever to like get first downs on slant routes and things like that. He was really becoming a very, important, big, good part of their offense. And I think that people kind of look at like, oh, he had a couple games where he had like 2 catches or whatever. It's like, well, you know what? Like the whole offense was pretty shitty for the first 6 or 7 games. It's not, just Jimmy Graham. A lot of it was Russell Wilson. So I think you get him back into the offense and he's going to be a big time producer still. And I think the other thing is that he draws defenses to him and that helps everybody else around him. So
there's no question that they need to, and I believe they will, but there's no question that just like anybody else, next year they need to figure out how to best utilize him. And I think that's, what was happening against the Panthers, 8 catches for 140 yards, against the Cowboys, 7 catches for 75 yards, and against the Steelers, when he got hurt, 4 catches for 75 yards. I mean, It's the type of production that I think you can see moving forward. In the first 6 games, he was averaging maybe less than 10 yards per catch, which isn't good, but over the last 6 games. So the first 5 games, it was like 10 yards per catch. And then over the last 6 games, it was 14.8 yards per catch.
Yeah, he was being used up the seam, like up the middle. Like that opened up a whole new option. Previously, Russell Wilson was basically only throwing to the sidelines, right? Like he barely ever threw to the middle of the field. So that opened up a whole a new element to the offense. And so I don't know. It just annoys the hell out of me when people talk about how he didn't fit into the offense and how they should just cut him. I just think that's stupid. I really disagree with that. I think he's got a strong future as long as he can get healthy, and that's a huge if. But I think as long as he can get healthy, I think he's going to be a really, really good player for the Seahawks. And so it just annoys me that people want to cut him.
Yeah.
Struggling with that mute button, aren't you?
So these microphones have mute buttons, and for some reason, when I just click mine once, it doesn't just unmute it. So
make sure you push it hard. I've had the issue too. You have to you can't just touch it. You have to really, really give it your best shot there, Kenny.
That's what she said.
Oh.
I don't know where to find girls' buttons, but the Seahawks are a team in the NFL, and that's my transition back to football. But talk about Thomas Rawls. And one other curious thing, do you just expect that we're going to go back to Kristen Michael coming back as the backup with sort of one of these things where you're in a relationship with someone for a couple years and then you have a tough breakup and then you find yourself back with that person in 6 months and it's like,
they really changed.
Give us another shot. Yeah.
They really changed, Kenny.
Do you think that Kristen Michael really changed, and do you think that they can just sort of put behind them the nasty things they said when they broke up?
Yeah, I do actually think that he has changed. All indications are that he got cut in Dallas after being presented with a really, really good situation to potentially explode as a starter, right? He got cut after a couple weeks. he went over to Washington and he was kind of on a practice squad, but he was on the street. Like he just didn't have a job for a while. I think that will scare anybody kind of like into realizing that, oh shit, I guess I'm not doing it right. I think he had to have that reality check because I think for, with the Seahawks, he didn't really believe that he was doing anything wrong necessarily. He just thought, oh, I'm not getting a fair shot or whatever, and this is me just speculating, but kind of how it sounds. And that reality check of basically getting cut by two different teams and then, not even really getting much interest elsewhere other than the practice squad with Scott McCloughan in Washington. I think that kind of scared him into realizing that he needs to change his ways. And I think from all indications he did. He still has a ways to go. He still has to learn how to carry the ball in his left hand, which I don't know if that will ever happen. But I do think he is a good second option, third option for the Seahawks. And I think, getting value from him, going forward would be great because he was a second round pick, obviously. So getting some value from him, would be huge for the depth on the team. And so I think they'll hold on to him. I think, he's a restricted free agent. I think they'll keep him this year. I think Rawls will be the starter. I think that Lynch will be gone. And I think that Christian Michael will probably be second string. And then they'll probably draft a guy or get a guy in the, undrafted free agency that can come in and be the third guy. Or they might end up doing some sort of deal with, a veteran that could play third downs and stuff like that. So they don't put too much on Rawls and Christian Michael, next year. But I do think that the running back situation looks good going forward. I'm excited about it. I think that Rawls will be fine. I think he'll be a real legitimate starter in the league. And then Christian Michael kind of as a, number two option that could come in and spell him if he needed to. So, he carried the team in terms of the run game, a couple games, and showed that he can be dependable. He didn't fumble. He did his job. And I think that was probably a good experience for him next year. And he could probably build on that going forward.
I don't think that, I'm just looking at, I don't think the Seahawks are going to do anything in free agency this year. I think that when you look at the amount of money that they have, and when you look at the free agents that they have, and you look at their roster and realize they don't have anybody to cut except for Marshawn Lynch, I don't think they're going to do a damn thing in free agency. I think that
outside
they're going to
free agency, you mean?
Yeah. I think they're going to retain their own guys, but I don't think if you're like looking out there, like looking at some free agents, like, oh, what about Mario Williams or blah, blah, blah. Like, it's not. Creepy. I don't think it's going to happen. I think that they might have $3 or $4 million if they can get in a situation where they're going to get their next Atiba Rubin or something like that.
For sure,
it'll be one of these types of situations. But I think that they expect to bring back almost the exact same team and get healthier and win a Super Bowl that way. What do you think?
I think that, I think you're right. I don't think they'll go out and get a big time free agent, like a big ticket guy. Even if they had some of the cap space for that, I don't think they'd do it. I think what they would do is, one or two strategic veterans that could come in and start or be like a solid backup and kind of just add depth there. And I think it would probably be on the offensive line or as a pass rusher. So I think those are the kind of two areas that they could potentially look to fill with like a veteran free agent, not like a high price guy, but like a mid to low end deal. So they're, I don't know what they're going to do on the offensive line, but they probably will bring in an outside, veteran or two that can at worst kind of compete in camp, and then kind of give them some more competition there. But I agree. I don't think they're going to go big ticket this year. I think they're going to try and keep their own guys and kind of go from there.
I want to hit up Real and the Film Goals real quick. Do you accept?
I do accept.
Okay, these are the movies playing in my local theater. I can go see any one of them, and I've seen some of them. So I just want to hit them real quick, and I want you to tell me if you've seen it first of all, and then I want you to give me one sentence of what you think that either how it was or how you think it will be. How does that sound?
That sounds good. All
right. So number 1, The Revenant.
I haven't seen it yet, and it looks amazing. So I think you should go see it. Have you not seen it? I thought you saw it.
Oh, I've seen it, but I still want to know. A, I could still see it again.
Yeah.
And B,
I still really need to see that.
Do you have it playing locally?
It's finally here. Yeah. It took a long time to get here, but it's been here a couple of weeks now, so I need to go see that. It's on my list.
Definitely go check that out. Leo's Oscar is on the way. This is a movie that I've seen. I've never seen the first one, but I've seen it like advertised on every show that I've watched. These two guys coming in, Ice Cube and Kevin Hart, and doing a promo for it, Ride Along 2.
I mean, that's not really I'm not interested in seeing that. I did watch the Conan O'Brien special where they kind of did like a promo on it, and that was hilarious.
They were also on The Bachelor.
They were on The Bachelor. Oh, wow. That's good. I mean, whenever I see those things, I'm always like, sponsored post. So I totally understand. I understand.
Oh, for sure.
Because we have to do that for field goals too, but it's kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. I've never seen The Bachelor up until this year. I was like, well, because I've heard people say like, oh yeah, it's fun to watch, even from like a standpoint of not like caring, because they are so ridiculous, the people on them.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought Kevin Hart and I did a nice job on The Bachelor, and I hope that he gets Ben in the end. Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
Yeah, I mean, I still haven't seen that either, but you need to go see it. I know, dude.
We talked about Star Wars. I guess we did say like when it was before it came out, we were like, when I asked you, when are you going to see it? And you said after it dies down.
Yeah.
It's been like, I'd say 5 weeks. Has it died down enough yet?
Yes, it has. I just haven't done it yet. I'm the worst. I'm the worst, very hardcore Star Wars fan, and the fact that I haven't gone and seen it yet. I just don't go to movies, man.
Yeah, I mean, I go just every now and then. The Fifth Wave, I don't know anything about it.
That's like some like teen apocalypse-y movie or something.
Oh wait, I just heard you say teen, and I was like, I'm in. Dirty Grandpa.
I don't know. That one looks kind of funny. It looks kind of stupid, but it also looks kind of funny. We talked about this. Zac Efron is actually pretty funny, and he was really good in Neighbors. And then I like Aubrey Plaza a lot.
Oh, right.
So,
like in what kind of way?
I think she's really cute and funny. She's a good actress. I don't know.
Best kinds of ways.
Why do you like actresses?
That's the only thing that I look for in a girl is that she's got to be cute, funny, and a good actress. And that's all I need.
That's pretty. Yeah, exactly.
That's why might be why I'm single. I don't know. 13 Hours, The Secret Soldiers of Benghazi, brought to you by Michael Bay.
No, I can't do it. I won't. I refuse to go to a Michael Bay movie.
Daddy's Home.
No, I thought that looked terrible. I love Will Ferrell, but
I was just letting you know that Daddy's Home.
Oh, that's just your new catchphrase. Okay.
What do you mean, Will Ferrell? Don't you like the other guys?
I didn't see that.
What?
Yeah, I recently
had this conversation offline or on this podcast.
I think I was gonna say someone recently got mad about this. That I haven't seen. It might have been you. I think maybe it was you.
It's amazing. I don't know what you're holding out for, especially because I know your humor. So you've got to go see it.
Okay. Well, I'll go see the other guys, and then if I like that, then I'll consider going to see Daddy's Home.
This one is I'm really only interested in seeing it because it has a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's Norm of the North, which is an animated movie.
Oh, yeah, I haven't seen the preview for that.
It's over 30 reviews, and none of them are positive. So that to me is like, this has got to be seen.
Yeah, I think people listening to Real and the Film Goals probably think I have the worst taste in movies.
Yeah, I mean, they could think it. It could be true. I don't know.
It's definitely not true. I've got amazing taste. So,
The Forest. Have you seen the previews for this? It's a scary movie with the chick from Game of Thrones.
No, I haven't seen the preview.
Have you heard of the Suicide Forest in Japan?
I have, yeah. That's
so
pretty
it's about
crazy.
That.
Yeah.
And she like goes looking for her twin sister who like maybe is suicided there. I don't know.
Is this there was another one, like Brad Pitt or something is in a movie like about the Suicide Forest 2 coming up. I feel like there's no. I feel like there's another movie about the forest that's coming out too.
I haven't seen that one.
But anyway.
The Hateful Eight?
Yeah, I haven't seen that, but it looks good.
Go see it, man.
Okay.
I've seen it twice.
I don't know how many times I'm going to tell you I don't go to movies in the theater.
Sisters.
You'd have to ask me about movies that are on.
Will you see a movie starring Tina Fey and Amy Poehler, or do you not think women are funny?
No, I think women are funny, and I really liked Bridesmaids. I don't know how good Sisters looked, but I would probably see it. Tina Fey is really funny.
She is. Amy Poehler is really funny.
Yeah, I like Baby Mama. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, there you go. The Big Short.
Oh, I would see that when it comes out on video. Yeah,
I saw it.
That has a good cast. Has a really good cast.
Yeah, it's a really good cast, and it was really well done. And this is the last one, and it is a sports movie, Creed.
I've heard so many people say they like that. I would see it, but I generally don't like the Rocky movies.
I mean, what about like Rocky and Bullwinkle?
I would probably rather watch that than any of the original Rocky movies.
What about Cliffhanger, which takes place on a rocky mountain?
Yeah, I'd rather watch that. I have seen that, I should say.
What about Fast and the Furious 7 starring the Rocky?
No.
You got to see the Fast and Furious movies, number one. And
I
number
have
two,
seen the first like two. I'm not sure how many there
those
are.
first two don't count. Like, yeah, they're
Oh.
they're good in a different way.
Did you see the
really
Tokyo
about
Drift one or whatever?
5, 6, and 7. Yes, Tokyo
Uh,
Drift is awesome because it's terrible, but it's awesome.
Gotcha.
Every single one, except for really the worst one, is number 4, because number 1 is the origin story, and it's like more of like a Point Break type movie. And then number 2 is just ridiculous, and you get Tyrese. They take away Vin Diesel. Number 3, they take away Paul. They couldn't get Paul Walker or Vin Diesel to do more than a cameo, so they took it over to Tokyo to drift. Number 4, they got the gang back together, but they were still getting their bearings.
Right.
And then number 5, they were really starting to figure out like, oh, let's just fucking blow this shit up and like take it to level 12. And that's when it just, I mean, that's why Fast 7 just made $1.5 billion in the movies.
Right.
So, and then of course they're like, oh yeah, we don't care if Paul Walker's dead. We're going to keep doing these. Furious 8 is coming out next. So it's one to watch. They're a lot of fun.
Sure.
But I do like that Sylvester Stallone, he won a Golden Globe for Creed. He's nominated for an Oscar for Creed to play, playing Rocky Balboa. It's just nuts because it's like when Sylvester Stallone started his career, it was because of Rocky. And like he was like nominated and it was like won Best Picture. He wrote the script or co-wrote it or stole it from someone else and plagiarized it. And he like needed to play himself. And he got all these Oscar accolades. And that was like in 1977 or something like that. And then they never wanted him back because he made a bunch of shitty movies or just action movies. And now he's back again with Rocky again. But now it's like Rocky's sick. So it's like, that's why. But I thought he did a really good job in it. And the movie itself, I don't really care about it. It's like, it didn't harm me. It wasn't bad. It wasn't especially special. And I thought that Sly did a good job. So.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a few questions.
Okay.
Just so we can be a little more even, because this is my I watch Netflix or my Amazon Prime. I don't go to movies.
Fair enough.
Have you seen Killing Them Softly with Brad Pitt?
Yes.
What did you think of that movie?
It was okay, somewhat forgettable, sort of fallen into the trap of looking a lot like a bunch of other movies that came out at the same time.
Right. What did you think of Side Effects?
Is that the one with James McAvoy? Or
no, it's Jude Law, Rooney Mara, Catherine Zeta-Jones. It's a Steven Soderbergh movie about well, I won't tell you what it's about, but
something about like taking a drug. I know,
Right.
not just because it's called Side Effects. Either I saw the trailer and I thought that I saw it because I saw the trailer, or I've only seen a little bit of it. So
I thought it was going to be bad, and I really enjoyed it.
Really enjoyed Side Effects. Okay.
Side Effects. Looking through, I watched recently. I watched People, Places, Things with Jermaine Clement, the guy from Flight of the Conchords. Have you seen
Right.
that one? I thought it was fun or cute, or I don't know what you want to call it. It wasn't like, oh, that was the most amazing movie, but it's like a independent comedy.
Jermaine Clement did one last year called What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh God, I need to see that.
It's on HBO.
That's the faux, like the mockumentary about vampires.
Yeah, I've seen about half of it, and I thought it was really funny.
It looks amazing. I need to see that.
Yeah.
Looking through the list here of other movies that are on here. Going to shows. Did you watch Scrotal Recall?
Yes. Well, yes.
What did you think of it?
No, I thought it was good and fun and funny.
Yeah, I think that was probably the dumbest named show because I think it probably turned people off. and it's
Right. It's
actually
a
really
really
kind of
terrible
funny.
name for a show. It should have been. I mean, I get what they're going for,
Yeah,
but Squirtle Recall is like the joke name of what it's actually called. You know, like that's what it
yeah.
would be. Like it would be called something like, dating history or whatever.
50
And then
First Dates, for instance.
yeah, and then some other one would go like, oh yeah, they should have called this Squirtle Recall. You know,
Right.
not that's not what you should have actually called it.
Right. No, but I thought that was really funny. Um, did you watch The Fall?
I saw the first season.
The 2 season murder mystery thingy.
I saw the first season.
Okay. I thought
Did
that
you
was
see the
good.
second season?
I did see the second season. I thought it was good. I thought it was well made. And it kept you interested. Did you watch Narcos?
I did.
What did you think of Narcos?
I thought that it was good and definitely like addictive, but at the end of the day, overrated.
Oh, I would disagree. I thought it was amazing.
I think that first of all, the I would say that the wigs and the makeup are awful, like really
Well,
bad.
on the white guy, the only white guy in the movie, pretty much, his
Yeah.
mustache is terrible. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought that some of the acting, like the main acting, was strong, and I thought that some of the other acting was really bad.
Interesting.
And overall, I'm like, it is interesting that they did it, and then it's like, I thought that it was going to be over in one season, but they're coming back with another. They didn't get to the end of Pablo Escobar's life there, so it's like they're coming back for more.
Spoiler alert. Yeah.
And I would have done it all in 1 year. I felt like that was possible to do, but at the same time, I did really like it while I was watching it. I just felt like some of it was really like cheesy, but at the same time, I know that they put a lot of work into it. The guy that played the Pablo Escobar, he did an AMA on Reddit and talked about, the work. And, that guy was like sort of a skinny guy. And then he put on like a bunch of fatty weight to play the role. Definitely sacrifices.
I liked how they did it all in Spanish. So it felt really, I think when you combine kind of how terrible everyone dresses and the fact that, like maybe you said there weren't, some of the supporting roles maybe weren't the greatest acting. I think the fact that they did it all in Spanish made it feel a lot more genuine and real. So I liked it a lot, but yeah. Anyway, that's gonna feel real in the Netflix goals.
Real in the Flix goals.
Here we go. This is, we understand what Netflix and chill means, so we're not going to say that. Most people don't understand what it means. So look it up if you're using that incorrectly.
Yeah, definitely don't get that one wrong. But yeah, that's the end of Reel in the Film goals. Going back into Reel in the Field goals, coming into the end of that as well. I think we've sort of covered the bases as far as what happened this week, and then next week we'll maybe get into some of the details about contract situations and what contract situations are actually facing the Seahawks, and maybe take a look at what their cap could look like next year if they were able to re-sign some of these players.
Yeah, we're about to get into some real hardcore offseason stuff with free agency, the draft, obviously the salary cap and everything. We're going to have Davis on soon, hopefully next week, to talk about all that. We did have a guest lined up this week, but we kind of had some technical difficulties, didn't work out. So hopefully we can get that all worked out. And then, we got, I don't know. I kind of like the off season, honestly. There's a lot of fun, like team building stuff that you can talk about. Yeah,
if you look at the important dates on the post that's up there on fieldgoals.com right now, look at the important dates. There's a lot of them. So there's a lot of things to sort of digest and, tune into 3000 NFL mock draft on Mondays or Tuesdays to sort of get an idea of what the Seahawks could be looking for in terms of young players. We're going to try and get some of those prospects on as guests. We'll try and get some people evaluating those prospects, and we'll sort of take a look at who could be right for the Seahawks, as well as some of those key dates like the Senior Bowl and the Combine and pro days and all that kind of fun stuff as Seattle lines up for yet another draft, which, if you look at some of the guys they've picked through the draft or an undrafted free agency, it's some of the best players in team history. So there's always something to be excited for in those 3 days when they pick new players. So that's a lot to look forward to. Your thoughts as far as who's going to be in the Super Bowl?
I picked the Panthers and the Patriots. So, yeah. What did you pick?
I mean, I haven't officially picked anything, I guess, yet, but
All right, who would you pick?
My gut would probably be the opposite of that. I'm going to say the Broncos and the Cardinals.
Okay.
I think that the Broncos defense is amazing, and I think that they've got just enough on offense to outwit the Patriots defense. It's not going to be easy for them by any means. I think it's going to be a great game. And then the Cardinals, I mean, you just
can't pick the Panthers.
Well, I mean, even though the Panthers fans, I got a lot of stuff about, and they're just saying a lot of stuff about DVOA or strength of schedule. The strength of schedule stuff wasn't about whether or not you could beat the Seahawks. It's about whether or not you could win the Super Bowl. So if you still have to go out there and win 2 more games before any of that stuff becomes irrelevant. You want a relevancy, you still have to win the Super Bowl. And I'm still looking at it, and I'm still saying the Cardinals played a tougher schedule. They had better results. And if you everything other than win-loss, I mean, there was 2-win difference. That one thing that can be made up in a single play. And that's all I'm really thinking about. The Panthers have home field advantage, but the Cardinals have the advantage of the Seahawks telling them, hey, if we had worn different cleats, Jonathan Stewart wouldn't have scored that touchdown. So, wouldn't have had that 59-yard run, I should say. Those first couple drives where they said they were slipping around and switched cleats and didn't have problems after that, which kind of disturbs me in the fact that why didn't they run around on that field before the game?
You're right.
I don't understand that exactly.
Let's just ask.
But I think that the Cardinals will be fine enough to – I think both games – I would be surprised if both games weren't very close.
I could definitely see the Broncos winning. And, I mean, it wouldn't be weird if the Cardinals won either. I mean, it's like a 1-2. The top 4 seeds in the NFL right now are still in there, which hasn't happened in a while. So, I mean, nothing would surprise me at this point. I think I'll just I don't know, just based on how Carolina played in the first half, I think that they're looking pretty hard to stop. And, but I don't know, the Cardinals are really good too, so could definitely see that.
And it's interesting that 3 of the 4 teams have a quarterback that was picked first overall, and the other one is Tom Brady. So
yeah, right. That's crazy.
Stressing the importance of a quarterback. There won't be a quarterback first overall this year unless the Titans trade, which is possible, though. We'll see. There isn't a surefire number 1 pick quarterback out there, or a number 1 pick at all. So that's something that you can address on 3000 NFL Mock Draft. So check that out on Monday. You can subscribe on iTunes to this show. We want to thank again our Patreon donors. You can go to the patreon.com link in the post to send a few bucks if you want to. We'll get those shout outs, keep rolling out next week. As well as we want to thank Great Leap Studios for sponsoring the show throughout the playoffs. That's Great Leap Studios at greatleapstudios.com for your web content writing, SEO, all that good stuff for your website. Go to greatleapstudios.com and, you guys can chat about the Seahawks and how much you love field goals and reeling the field goals. So we want to thank them, of course, because they and our Patreon donors really helped us get these new mics that hopefully you can really tell the difference through your ear holes this week. And we will continue to upgrade our equipment and the software and everything that goes into these shows in the coming months. So please keep that in mind. And follow on Twitter at Field Goals and Kenneth Arthur S. And we're just going to have more good stuff coming up. Go check out that Seahawks draft history on fieldgoals.com today. And that's it. Anything else you want to add in there, Danny?
Nope. That's it. Not the best color man in the league for nothing, folks.
That's it, folks. All right. We'll see you Sunday after the conference championship games for the second to last Instant Reaction podcast of the year. We'll give our thoughts on what happened there, and maybe we'll see if it affects the Seahawks in any way. All right. See you then.